Welcome back, students. This is Alan Gilmore with Human Services 20. We are in the final video of the lecture for Modular 5, Practice with Individuals, Families, and Groups. And we're going to spend the remainder of this video delving into groups. And this is going to be valuable information because your discussion board for this particular week is focusing on groups. So groups are a form of social organization where members identify and interact with one another on a personal basis and have a shared sense of the group as a social support. So that's our working definition. So groups are a place where people come together and they have a shared sense of commonality, something that they have in common, and they are often using the group for social support. Group participants seek to strengthen positive personal functioning and social skills through structured group interactions, and this is all rooted in the settlement house movement, which you'll recall from earlier in the semester. There are two different kinds of groups, natural groups and planned groups. I think that's pretty self-explanatory. Natural groups are groups where people just kind of come together because it feels instinctive, it feels intuitive, it feels that we're a group and we just want to come together. Planned groups are something where somebody organizes, they identify it. People may not necessarily naturally know the other people that they're coming into the group with, but they're coming for a particular purpose. So types of planned groups. The book talks about recreation groups, recreation skill groups, educational groups, socialization groups, self-help groups, therapeutic groups, and personal growth groups. Let's talk about the distinction between recreation and recreation skill. I know it may seem a little, have a lot of commonalities, but recreation is often considered one where people are coming together for a particular recreational type of activity, something that they already know how to do. So maybe there's a group of guys that all get together on Monday night and play basketball. Recreational skill, pretty much exactly the way it sounds. Now you're talking about people who are coming together to learn a particular skill. And it doesn't have to be sports related. It could be, I want to learn how to knit. I want to learn how to cook. All of those kinds of things might be considered recreational skill. Educational, obviously people are coming together because they want to learn about something. Socialization, often people are looking to expand their social environment, that they are looking for new friendships or new acquaintances. It may be that they're looking for romantic relationships, and so that would all be considered socialization. Self-help, this is where you typically would see things like Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, maybe Weight Watchers groups, those kinds of things. Therapeutic is more of a clinical group, so people who are all maybe experiencing the same type of mental health issue are coming together, usually in a therapeutic environment, to be able to benefit from being with other people who are experiencing the same condition that they exhibit. And then personal growth is it's a kind of a catch-all for where individuals are looking to maybe expand themselves personally. It could be something about a business or how to make investments or those kinds of things. So there are 4 considerations that have to be made whenever you're talking about groups. And this is actually a significant part of your discussion board for this week. So effective group development takes into consideration the following: purposefulness. What is the purpose of the group? Leadership. How is the leadership of the group going to be determined and implemented? Selection of group members. How are you going to select people to participate in the group? And what is going to be the size of the group? So all of those are things that have to be considered when you are planning or moving forward with the development of a group. So let's talk about purposefulness, or the purpose of a group. Social workers leading groups have to ensure that the dignity and worth of all of the members of the group. We need to have rules. We need to have a group purpose. We have to know our roles within the group. We have to assess the problems and needs of individual members and the group as a whole. And we need to help the group develop its own identity. So all of that happens through the process of the group meeting and becoming a group. And we're going to talk a little bit about the stages that a group goes through that will expand on this particular concept. Leadership. Social workers lead groups. They must facilitate the development of communication among members, facilitate planning and implementation of activities that promote positive group and individual functioning and advancement of the group's purpose. And they also, if necessary, have to prepare the group for termination. Let's talk a little bit about leadership. Leadership does not necessarily have to be from the social worker. The social worker can be sort of a silent resource that's available within the group. You could have different members of the group lead the group during different points of time. You could have a chair and a co-chair that maybe run it for a year. There's lots and lots of different ways to facilitate the leadership of a group. Selection of group members. You're basically looking at whether you want a homogeneous or a heterogeneous group. Homogeneous groups are composed of individuals who are similar. So you might be talking about a group of adolescent boys, a group of single parents, or individuals who are working with grief and loss issues. A heterogeneous group are made up of people who differ in background. They may be adults of varying ages with varying careers. While homogeneous groups can concentrate on resolving one issue, their members may be limited experientially. One important consideration is that all group members have similar motives for joining the group. So you have to clearly delineate what exactly the purpose of the group is so that people don't mistakenly join a group having an impression that this is going to be their experience, when in reality, it's going to be different than what they anticipated. That will result in significant conflict. Group size. Effective group leaders screen potential members before accepting them. It allows the leader to select members and members to select leaders in groups. So as much as a leader may choose a participant in a group, a participant also chooses a group to become a part of. So there's equity in terms of both the leadership as well as the members in terms of who should be in the group and who should not. The ideal group size most often depends on the purpose of the group, and you must allow members an opportunity to express themselves without forming into subgroups. This may influence the size of the group to make sure everyone has a chance to participate. So, depending on what the purpose of the group is, will really drive what the group size should be. So, if you've got a group that maybe is working on a jointly shared mental health condition, it may be something where you choose to have a very small group. But if you've got a group that's all just coming together to learn how to knit, maybe you could have 25, 30 people, as long as there were enough facilitators to be able to make sure that everybody was progressing in terms of learning the skills that they were there to learn. So again, it all depends on the purpose of the group. That is what drives the size. So the theory for group work practice uses the same framework. So you could be using psychosocial theory, social learning or cognitive theory, ecological or systems theory. Everything that you are doing with individuals and families are also applicable to groups. This is where, this is what I referred to earlier, this kind of stages of groups. So each stage of group development is important for optimum group functioning. So you almost think about a group as if you think about a group as a person, there is, a beginning phase, the group is born, and there's a termination phase, the group dies. And between that, there are a lot of changes that can happen within a group. It is often referred to as forming, norming, and storming. I'm sorry, forming, storming, and norming. So there's the beginning stage when people are becoming more familiar with each other, understanding what the purpose of the group is. They're beginning to develop some norms about, well, this is the time we meet. This is the day of the week we meet. We don't bring food. We always bring food. Somebody makes coffee, all of these different kinds of things. We also then, that's where the leadership would come in as well. Who's going to lead the group? It's so-and-so's turn. We have some kind of a revolving leadership chair. That's the norming process. Undoubtedly, within a group, there'll be what's called a storming process or a conflict phase. You'll have people who just feel like the group isn't meeting their needs, or there's something about the way the group is being operated that does not seem to be pleasing to them. And often out of that comes people who may fall out of the group, or people who make an adjustment to whatever the group's norms are. Following that, you often have a long extended period where people are feeling that they're in relationship with the other members of the group. They begin to feel that this is, a formed family for me, or this is a formed set of friends for me, in which I'm able to share my thoughts and feelings. And then finally, there's termination. So we talked a little bit about this, but I just want to make sure that you're familiar with these terms. Again, we talked about recreational group, recreational skill group, encounter group, self-help group. These are some settings where groups may occur. So groups may be meeting in recreational settings, settlement houses or social work facilities, community centers, family and child service agencies, schools, treatment centers, maybe even hospitals. Group termination. Social workers have to be sensitive to the needs of the group at the point of termination. It's never ideal to terminate a group because the group is dysfunctional. If the group is dysfunctional, there may be even more of a reason for the group to continue to exist. And so it's never, ever appropriate to end a group simply because it's a lot of hard work and it's a difficult group to manage. Groups are normally terminated because they are time limited or because the purpose of the group has been met. And you talk about the termination piece on the very first night, and you continue to discuss it throughout the life of the group. And so if the group already knows that this is a 10-week group, then they're going to know when they start the group, when the group is going to end. But if the group is operating on a particular purpose for the group being met, and that purpose is achieved, that would be then the indication to the group that it's time for termination. Again, evaluation, practice effectiveness, professional practice with individuals, families, and groups must include an evaluation process. What could have increased client growth and change? What were the positive achievements of the clients or the client systems? What implications for change were suggested or are suggested? Evaluation is ongoing throughout the counseling process. For most folks that are involved in doing group work, your first group isn't going to be your last group. And so if you learn from every group experience and you're able to take what you learned in that experience and apply it to the next group, then they're going to benefit from maybe the challenges or the things that didn't go as well in the initial group, because you're going to make changes in the second group to avoid those things from happening. So evaluation in group process is increasingly important, and it should never stop. So jumping back into generalist practice and just talking a little bit about supervision. Supervisors for a generalist practitioner, usually somebody who's maybe first entering into a professional position in a social work agency. Your supervisor plays a vital role in the helping process. They are ensuring effective, appropriate interventions are being used. You'll often have some kind of regularly scheduled meeting with your supervisor to be able to talk about some of the intervention strategies that you're using and be able to bounce ideas off of the supervisor to be able to determine, based on their experience, whether you've made an appropriate choice, enrich the skills of those that they supervise, regulate the flow of cases, and provide accountability. So a supervisor provides all of these pieces to an entry-level social worker. And a bachelor's prepared social worker often is the one that's operating as a generalist practitioner. Most are employed in direct practice settings. They're working with individuals, families, and groups. The typical types of roles that they play is they can be doing some basic counseling, case management, they may be running groups, or they may be linking clients with community resources. And they can be operating in a variety of different community settings. So that concludes Modular 5, practice with individuals, families, and groups. I hope that you'll now move forward and work on your discussion board assignment and complete the quiz. And I will talk with you soon.